Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage the Executive Vice President of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association, Matt Hammond.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here and joining us for our next speaker. As Lieutenant Governor, Mary Taylor has worked to improve the business climate in Ohio, rein in government overreach, and has been a strong supporter of the oil and gas industry in Ohio. Taylor was a signatory to the Tri-State Agreement between Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia that strengthened the key areas of importance to the economic growth of the shale play. Taylor leads the Common Sense Initiative to reform Ohio's regulatory policies and cut the burdensome red tape that prevents businesses from growing and creating jobs. Under her leadership, CSI has changed or eliminated over 7,500 business impacting regulations. Please join me in welcoming the Ohio Lieutenant Governor candidate for governor, the Honorable Mary Taylor.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you. And I want to thank you for allowing both my opponent yesterday and me to talk to you. I think it's really important that you be informed as voters in the state of Ohio. And that's what I'm trying to do by taking my message to every corner of our state and meeting directly with Ohioans, talking about who I am, what I represent, but also, most important, what is my vision for the future. So President Ronald Reagan once said, "Raise a banner of no pale pastels, but bold primary colors, which make it unmistakably clear where we stand on the issues troubling the people." So you may have heard recently, and if you know me, you probably already know this, that I have no problem making it unmistakably clear where I stand on any of the issues that face the people. I will tell you, though, I fear that our Republican Party is in danger of losing sight of those bold colors and instead is embracing a path of least resistance, the seemingly inevitable, what I call the pale pastels. I believe Ohio deserves better. Ohio deserves a fearless, unapologetic, conservative champion whom you will never wonder where I stand on any single issue. And that is why I am running to be the next governor of Ohio. My American dream was defined by my dad. He was a single parent who suffered from polio as a child, but he still worked hard every single day as a bricklayer. He gave up his own comfort, and he never expected that anybody, including the government, owed him anything. And he fought every single day to make sure his children had a better life. I was the first in my family to go to and graduate from college. I graduated with an accounting degree and became a CPA and spent 16 years working in the private sector. Right out of college, I was very fortunate to be recruited by what was then one of the big 6 public accounting firms, and I went to work for Deloitte. Early on, I was challenging the status quo, and my record during my time in public service reflects the same. When I first started working at Deloitte, after my first son was born, I decided that I wanted to work a part-time schedule but continue my professional career. So I went to my partners and I said, I know you don't do this, but I want you to think about it. To their credit, my partners agreed to allow me to work a part-time schedule, and it paved the way for women who came after me to do the same. I got involved in politics because of a local property rights issue. There was a church that was proposing to build on property right across the street from my neighborhood, and unfortunately, government was doing what government often does, overreaching and trying to dictate to that church what they could do with their own property. Ultimately, the right decision was made and the church got built, but I got involved in politics because of that. I sought appointment to a city council seat, was then elected to a full 4-year term, and then because of term limits, I was recruited to run for the state legislature. When I ran for the state legislature, I ran in a district that was believed to be unwinnable by Republicans because it was right after redistricting, and the district became much more Democrat. But I did then what I'm doing today. I went straight to the voters with my message, and ultimately I won that race. In 2006, I ran for state auditor. Now, you might remember 2006 was the original blue wave that swept across our state and our country. We lost the House, we lost the Senate, and one very liberal U.S. Senator named Mike DeWine lost his reelection in Ohio to Senator Sherrod Brown. And then, of course, there was me. In 2006, I was the only Republican elected statewide when that year was awful for the rest of the Republicans. I also would be the first CPA ever elected to serve as state auditor. And I did what I said I would do. I understood that the main responsibility of the state auditor was to protect your tax dollars. And where there was misspending by anybody in government, we held them accountable. As your lieutenant governor, I was the director of the Ohio Department of Insurance, where we fought Obamacare every step of the way. And in fact, I prevented Ohio from setting up an Obamacare state-based exchange because I knew it was going to be a disaster for our state. And in fact, it has been. I have also led CSI, which Matt already mentioned, but there, our responsibility is to challenge the status quo every single day and make sure that we are getting rid of job-killing regulations. You may know this, but if you don't, I have also been a champion of the oil and gas industry here in Ohio. Ohio has a strong history of shaping America's energy policy and growth. Standard Oil was founded by the Rockefellers in Cleveland. Thomas Edison was born in Milan. The great competing manufacturers of mining and excavation equipment that operated the coal mines of Ohio and Appalachia, Marine Power Shovel and Bucyrus Erie, were founded right here in the state of Ohio. The historic leadership continues today. The Utica Shale reserves in Ohio are rich with natural gas, especially the wet natural gas that has attracted the attention of cracker plants that need that wet gas to produce the building blocks of plastics and polymers. Ohio already produces more natural gas than it uses. A sound energy policy is critical for a healthy economy. Ohio grew through the last century because of coal mines and brought the steel and the manufacturing industries to our state. Because of that strong manufacturing base, Ohio remains an energy-intensive state. In my role, I've been talking to businesses all over the state of Ohio, large and small. Virtually every day, they mention to me the issues that they care most about. Workforce and energy, as you know, is one of the most critical factors on the minds of these business owners. It is also one of the biggest long-term concerns that worry many. In this century, Ohio's growth is being powered in part by the oil and natural gas from the shale deposits under our state. This energy source is critical to our economy because of the jobs that are created and because of the affordable energy provided our manufacturing and other businesses in the state of Ohio. In Ohio, we know that our families believe that jobs is the biggest moral issue. The other challenges, though, that we face, education, healthcare, poverty, and addiction, are exacerbated for our state and our communities and our families that are continuing to struggle with job loss. Our energy policy has to understand all of these issues as well. An energy policy that undermines our economic development and our families' jobs will be incredibly destructive and counterproductive for our state. Americans are used to and expect consistent, reliable, affordable energy. This is different from other less developed countries, as you well know. For businesses, though, it's even more critical. It's an economic necessity. This is why energy policy that drastically increases cost and reduces the amount of reliable energy in the market is so destructive. The reliable, affordable energy that powers our businesses and homes depends on a secure supply and distribution system. Shale gas makes our economy more secure because it reduces our reliance on foreign energy supplies. With energy, you don't want a system that stifles organic innovation and the future growth innovation that it provides. And you also don't want government picking winners and losers and interfering in the development of our energy sources. As a nation, we are blessed with an abundance of natural resources and a power grid that delivers consistent, affordable energy 24/7. That is in contrast to most of the rest of the world. At the end of the day, I think what we're all looking for is to make what we have today even better. A natural energy system that has long-term sustainability, which fosters market-supported innovation and growth in the efficient extraction, generation, distribution, and use of all of our energy. So here is my commitment to you and this industry as your governor. I have already spoken out against any increase in the severance tax, and as governor, I will fight against any attempt to do so in the future. We will continue CSI and our regulatory reform efforts, and we will take our regulations that impact our business where science takes us. We will use a common sense approach that does not stand in the way of the most important job creation that sometimes or too many times overreaching regulations can hinder. We will continue and look for the economic opportunities that are presented because of this industry. I have been involved and will continue to be involved in bringing the cracker plant to Ohio, and I'm still very hopeful that we have a real shot at this. But the way I look at it, the cracker plant's only step one. Of course, it's a huge construction project, 10,000 construction workers, vitally important to a part of our state that has not benefited from the economic opportunities that other parts of our state have benefited from, but that's just the beginning. As your governor, I will make a list of companies and I will go out and recruit them to come to Ohio and build and construct their facilities close to this cracker plant because they need the feedstock that comes out of that. And we will continue to work to make Ohio a great place to live and work and raise a family. But let me tell you what else in addition to that I am committed to as governor. I will end the Medicaid expansion and deliver a market-based, not a government-based system for health care. I have detailed my plan, which is centered on a patient-doctor relationship. I will end Common Core once and for all and allow local control to decide how to best educate their kids in communities across the state. I have proposed a comprehensive plan to help those living in addiction to restore their lives. It is not a government solution. People who have been in government too long believe government solves these problems. The truth is these problems are not solved by government, they're solved by the private sector. So my plan will incentivize the private sector to build out the continuum of care that is necessary for these individuals to live their God-given potential. I can tell you as a mother with 2 boys living in recovery, there is nobody running for any statewide office in Ohio today that better understands addiction and recovery than a mom who has been through it for the last 6 years. But first, let me tell you what we have to do. We have to secure our borders. We know that these drugs are coming across our border in Mexico and coming from China through Canada, and we have to keep this poison off our streets because it's killing our kids. Because I'm an accountant, my first major policy that I rolled out was tax simplification, tax compliance simplification. So after I'm done serving 8 years as your governor, you will file your individual tax return on a postcard rather than the 11 full pages it takes you to file today. I want it to be noted that I said this before Donald Trump said this. I believe he copied from me, and I'm okay with that because it's actually a really smart policy. I will put Obamacare in the rearview mirror before it bankrupts each and every one of us. I will reform education policy so that people have a choice between college preparatory classes and licensure in trade and industry so that they can have a job when they graduate from high school. I will shut down sanctuary cities, and I will build a firewall to protect the people from the encroachment of government and will stand firm on our conservative values and our principles. Ultimately, we will reduce the size of government and restore freedom and opportunity for every single Ohioan. But first, I must defeat the Ohio political establishment, which would compromise these very conservative principles that motivates me to seek office. So Reagan said there is a time for choosing, and there is a time for choosing in this Republican primary. I can tell you this, there's only one ticket that never voted against Anwar. Remember, Mike DeWine is U.S. Senator. Every chance he had, he voted against drilling in Anwar and the energy independence that it would bring. He was a member of the Gang of 14 that stopped 10 of our most conservative judges from being appointed by President George W. Bush. He earned an F from the NRA, and he voted for the original DREAM Act, which provided college tuition for illegal immigrants and also provided amnesty. So I've been asked by some of you in this room and many across the state, What is the path to victory? So I'm going to very simply explain it this way. So DeWine is a paper tiger candidate. He is known for ducking debates and avoiding anything that challenges him. He might have universal name ID. For that, we all agree, because he's been on the ballot in every decade for the last 5. But he's hardly a popular candidate, a popular consensus candidate, or a choice for conservatives in the state of Ohio. The truth of the matter is, in terms of popularity of the base, the most popularly elected officials in the Republican Party are those that are the most conservative, and that is Mary Taylor. Running up, this is how we're going to win. We're going to run up the advantage that we already have in Southwest, Northwest, and Southeast Ohio amongst conservative Republicans, who ultimately are the voters who are going to show up in a primary and vote on May 8th. I have one of the best strategists in the country working on our campaign, and we will fight for this race tooth and nail every single day by targeting conservative voters across our state. What you need to know is about 75% of Ohio primary voters consider themselves to be Christian conservatives or Trump Republicans, and those voters do not see Mike DeWine as a real choice. Our increasingly conservative party will stay home, and this is important. Will stay home for a man who had an F rating with the NRA and voted to support judicial candidates like Sonia Sotomayor and Merrick Garland. And that's what Mike DeWine did. And when we say he can't win in November, which is what's most important, it's for that reason. Think back, 2004, President George W. Bush, reelected, wins Ohio. 2008, John McCain loses Ohio, loses the presidency. 2012, Mitt Romney loses Ohio, loses the presidency. And the reason that happens, because conservatives have to be energized and engaged in order to help Republicans win in Ohio. They are not energized and engaged with a Mike DeWine candidacy. That's why Mike DeWine will not be the next governor of Ohio, because he cannot win in November. So, May 8th, that is our time for choosing. May 9th is when we get back together and we unite against the dire threat of either a Richard Cordray or a Dennis Kucinich. And the team that puts the best foot forward to ultimately beat Richard Cordray or Dennis Kucinich in November is the ticket Mary Taylor and Nathan Estruth, because conservatives will rally around our ticket and show up in November in a way that is necessary in order for Republicans to win. So I am Mary Taylor. I am a fearless, unapologetic conservative who will take on the entrenched special interests of the political class and the establishment every single day. I believe you in this room and the state of Ohio deserves nothing less. Thank you. So, questions. Anybody have a question? Now, apparently, you didn't get the opportunity yesterday, so I'm here to... I already answered them. That's good. Somebody did a great job helping me put this speech together then, if I've already answered all your questions. All right. I don't see any. Very good. Oh, wait a minute. You have one in the back?
Certainly appreciate your comments on the severance tax. I wanted to ask what your thoughts are on whether severance tax should be used for general budget purposes or whether they should be used for the original intent of dealing with the original intent.
So I believe the severance tax should be used for its original intent, which was to regulate the industry, and should not be extracted in order to balance a budget or to be dumped into a general revenue fund for other spending. Anything else? Oh, we have another. Usually once you have the first question, then they start pouring in.
Hi, Mary. How do we sign up to help?
MaryTaylorForGovernor.com.
Great. And what can we do in Cuyahoga County to help you?
Okay, so this is how a conservative candidate beats the establishment, and the establishment is coming pretty hard because they are feeling threatened. So I don't know how many of you are in this room. 200? I don't know. Let's say you have 150 people in this room. And so I believe in the compounding effect, and this is how you can help. And this is how you can help in Cuyahoga County, but everywhere across the state. So let's say if there's 150 of you in this room, and you all go to the polls on May 8th and vote for me. And then you tell 2 people to vote for me, so that's another 300. And then you ask them to tell 2 more people, that's another 600. So before you know it, we're getting darn near 1,000 votes just because we were all in this room together this afternoon. So this is how a conservative candidate beats the entrenched special interest of the establishment candidate. We are taking our message directly to the voters, meet and greets across the state. So a couple things I would ask. Go on to our website. If you can make a financial contribution, we would ask you to do that. We do, you need money to run a campaign, and we're going to have what we need, and we're going to take it directly to my opponent. If we're doing an event in your area, either if you would help us get people there so that they can hear the message, show up yourself, and just tell people that everybody that they have a clear choice in this race. There's a conservative candidate, and there's a candidate that is part of the establishment. And any other way that you think you can be helpful, we would appreciate your support. Thank you. Anything else?
This isn't so much about your campaign, but I'm curious. It seems as though polls don't matter anymore. Is that really true? Is the optics so skewed? Is there not a good way for them to get information? Why doesn't it seem to be an accurate representation of what any races are, maybe even yours?
So my observation has been over the last couple of years, pollsters are really having a tough time understanding the electorate. How many pollsters predicted Donald Trump would be our president? I mean, there wasn't a lot out there, right, that was saying, yep, for a fact, Donald Trump's going to be the president. Because they don't understand what's happening on the ground. It was happening in Ohio and happening across the country. And if you look at how some elections have turned out even recently in Texas this week, and they still don't understand that there is something going on the ground that is not properly reflected in a poll. So that's number one. I think they still need to get their arms around how to properly poll, what that means. And then the second reason a poll is not necessarily today going to reflect what's going to happen on May 8th, because it's going to tell you, I'm just going to speak specifically to this race, it's going to tell you what you already know. And what you already know is that Mike DeWine has 90% plus name ID. But voters don't remember his liberal record when he was in the U.S. Senate. So when given the choice, they're going to choose the name they recognize, but with no other context to what the two names mean. And so this is why when you run a campaign, which is what we are doing and what we will do, and this is why I remind you of Mike DeWine's record when he was in the U.S. Senate, because what we know from previous polls based on messaging, that Mike DeWine's support in Ohio is a mile wide and an inch deep. And the earth shifts quickly, very quickly, when voters understand they have a clear choice and are reminded how liberal Mike DeWine truly is. And so just asking that very simple question, who would you vote for today, tells you nothing about what's going to happen on May 8th. Now, I've seen 2 polls recently that are consistent with each other. One's a public poll and another's some information that we have access to. And there are more undecided voters in this race than are supporting Mike DeWine. There is a clear path to victory here, and which is why I described for you not only that there is one, but what it looks like.
R.B. Kinney, Belmont County. Don't forget Eastern Ohio.
So starting on Monday, I'm traveling to Marietta on Monday. I'm going to, take the 77 South route from my home in Summit County down to Marietta with a couple stops along the way. And then I believe we're going to spend the better part of next week in Southeast Ohio. We view it as a critical, important part of the state, but it's also a critical path to victory for us. So unless something has changed in the last hour or the last half hour since I walked into this room, I think we're going to spend the next couple days in Southeast Ohio. So will you please show up at an event for us? Come to a meet and greet. Anything else? All right. Thank you all so much.